Welcome to OState Daily. Casey Porter here alongside Chase Witwiska, as we are each and every week. It was another very successful Saturday at another very crowded Boone-Pickens Stadium. Chase, as we bring you in, I'll say this. Coach Gundy has said this. I've been to all the Big 12 venues. When Boone-Pickens Stadium is full like that, it puts off an incredible atmosphere.
Yeah, man, there's without a doubt. You know, I've only been to a couple different stadiums, but it gets really, really loud. The environment's a lot of fun, a lot of energy. It's a cool place to be for sure.
Yeah, and Oklahoma State played very well. And again, unlike some of the earlier games, when you have a big crowd, score that first drive and come out and be fun and get the crowd really, really juiced up and into it. And they certainly did that. Yeah,
these last 2 weeks, man, they've just come out, guns blazing. There was no hesitation. There was no conservatism, I guess you could say, in that first drive. They really just tried to set the tone for the game, said, you know what, we're going to drive the ball down your throat.
Yep, Oklahoma State scored in their first two drives, touchdowns, got a 3-and-out sandwiched in between there. So they had a 14-0 lead right off the bat. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then Kansas, that's when Oklahoma State went to not playing very good defense in the secondary. And I've said this many different times, the one where the first touchdown for Kansas, hey, great scheme. Yeah. So what they did is they had trips to the boundary, okay? So like whenever you put the ball on a hash mark, then the most narrow part of the field, that's the boundary side. The widest side of the field is called the field side. So they actually had trips to the boundary. They had no tight end, okay? So all they had were 5 linemen, 2 tackles, and a center. And because, let me go through this one by one. On the trips to the boundary side, the first receiver was on, the second receiver was on. So that got them to their 7 guys in the line of scrimmage that they needed. Okay, so because that second guy was on, he now is not eligible to go out for a pass because he's what's called covered up, which means that tackle on the other side was. Mm-hmm. So OSU didn't recognize that tackle because he wasn't in a tight end position. He was just a tackle. They didn't recognize that he was actually pass eligible at that point. So when he released, absolutely nobody covered him. I can't blame anybody on that other than just the fact that was great. That was just great scheming by Lance Leopold.
Yeah, no, they've shown great. Kansas has shown great signs all season of having good schemes and having good offense and knowing how to use what they know to their advantage, which is kind of keeping defenses on their toes with their different formations and different looks and different motions and all kinds of stuff to kind of keep the defense unsettled, if you will. And they did a great job of that throughout the entire game, especially against a very young, inexperienced Oklahoma State defense.
Yeah, especially in the secondary. Oklahoma State has some really, really talented players in the secondary, but all, for the most, not all, but for the most part, they're playing a lot of young guys. So 554 total yards, 226 on the ground, 336 through the air, another 6 receivers caught passes, which was fantastic. Alan-Bowman, time after time after time. Brennanpressley, whether he sat down on the seam, whether he sat down in the middle of the field, whether it was Olliegordon coming out of the backfield, Alan-Bowman just continues to do a great job of checking the ball down.
Yeah, man, he's just not trying to do too much. You go back to those first 3 weeks when they're rotating and then you go back to what he said after the Iowa State game. He was able to settle down a little bit and not have to force things. You've definitely seen an increase in performance and play by him, as he's been named the starter and gotten more and more reps and gotten more comfortable in the offense and more comfortable with his weapons. I think you're starting to see what the Oklahoma State offense is capable of. I don't think you even got an inkling of that within the first 3 weeks, with just the rotations at running back, the rotations at quarterback, really trying to figure out their identity. I think it's safe to say that they still don't really have their identity nailed down, which is okay. It's working right now. I do think they're really close. That being said, I think that here within the next week or two, you're really going to see what the Oklahoma State offense is all about.
Mm-hmm. Better, because West Virginia is good on the road. I know they lost in a Hail Mary to Houston last play of the game. That was crazy. Then you have OU after that. So you better have the identity strapped down and figured out exactly who you're going to be. OSU looked very good on offense. First touchdown defensively, hey, just give Kansas credit. They ran a trick play. It worked. Second touchdown, this has been a really big pet peeve of mine all year. It's been a major complaint. Okay, Coach Nardo continues to put his two safeties in conflict. We see kendalldaniels, Trey Rucker come screaming up into the box playing the run. And whenever you do that, they're trying to play run and pass. Mm-hmm. So all Kansas had to do was give kendalldaniels a really good run look. kendalldaniels came screaming up to stop the run. They slipped their H-back out, the same guy that caught the pass on the tackle-eligible play. Ran right by him, and because kendalldaniels was trying to play both run and pass, he was not able to cover the H-back. Wide open for the second touchdown. This is junior high level stuff as far as schematics go, as far as scheming goes. You can't put both secondaries in conflict like that, certainly in the Big 12, because as soon as the other team reads that your safeties are playing run, they're going to fake the run, and they're going to pass the ball right down the seam, and your safety's not going to be able to. As good as kendalldaniels is, he's amazing. As good as he is, he's not even able to come close to playing both the run and the pass. Coach Nardo has to stop doing that. If he doesn't, we're going to continue to get torched. I know Coach Gundy, the way that he put it, we dropped coverage. We didn't drop coverage. There was no drop coverage on that. That was scheme that does not work against Big 12 offenses. If you don't believe me, I got all over my social medias, been saying it all year. So that was not drop coverage. Coach Nardo just simply has to stop doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not a scheme that's working, obviously, and you have arguably one of the best safeties in the conference, wearing the number 5 jersey for you, and you're putting him in a tough spot. And like you said, he's a really, really, really talented kid, and I think that he's almost been held back a little bit from what he can do because he's trying to do too much. Keep it simple. I don't know if there's a lack of trust within your front 7 to make you feel like your back 7 has to come up and play run.
It's just the defense he runs.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that. I definitely think that your front 7's good enough to handle it. They're more than capable of handling it. You got 2 good linebackers. You got guys all over the field that can make plays. And I think, going back week after week, especially those first couple, your safeties were your leading tacklers,
mm-hmm.
and that's
by scheme,
right, and that's not how it's supposed to be by any means. Safety's the last line of defense, meaning that they should eat up tackles if they get past the front 7, not make plays in the backfield. Obviously sometimes that's great if you draw up a safety blitz every now and then, but you can't do it all the time.
And you're replacing that guy with another pass player.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm a little too frustrated on this, but I just don't know how Division I coach can look at those schematics and go, hey, it's a great idea to put both safeties playing pass and run, so a guy like Jason Bean, who's played 1 million snaps at Division I level, can just fake a run and pass the ball and a guy be that wide open. I don't understand how you can't make that adjustment fast. And it's been going on all year. I just don't understand how you can't make that adjustment. I will move on. I have ranted long enough on that because it was a good game. Very impressed with the I don't even want to say front 6, front 7, whatever, because it's so multiple as far as how the Cowboys play it. Let's just say the box players.
Sure.
The box players I felt like really kicked Kansas's butt.
Yeah.
In the run game.
They were nothing short of impressive, man.
Yes.
Like I said, and that's what I was saying. Those front 7 can handle the run. Kansas comes in as one of the top rushing offenses in the nation. And granted, how many rushing yards did they have? They had 90 rushing yards the entire game. I mean, that is extremely, extremely impressive, and that's all due to those front 7 or the box players, as you will, playing that run and handling it, trusting reading their keys, trusting their game plans and stuff like that. If you have guys that are unselfish and you're not worried about whatever, as long as they can read the 1 or 2 keys that they have, they're going to be in the right spot to make a play. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to add to that. You really don't, especially with how athletic and how physical Oklahoma State's front 7 are.
Yeah, they are physical. And boy, one thing about this defense, it does get downhill. It attacks. It does. It's an attacking defense. which is great. I love that part of it. I just wish they could figure out the back end of it a little bit better. But, hey, how good is Collinoliver? Hey, this is a guy that on one play he's sacking a quarterback. The next play he's dropping into pass coverage. And then the play after that, he's chasing down a triple option play.
Yeah.
Literally, like back-to-back-to-back plays, and you're just like, wow, this dude's just simply amazing.
Yeah, and a lot of his plays are effort plays. And I'm not taking away from anything that he does, but a lot of plays, he's running from behind. If you look at his pursuit of the football, he wants to be in on every play. He's a guy that mentally, he is the prime example of what you want your entire defense to act like and to run like and to feel like. And I mentioned this a few weeks ago with the unselfishness. This last week, he was able to do even more.
Yeah.
He was able to get 2.5 sacks. I don't know how many tackles he had. He had a few pass breakups. He had a really, really, really good game. And I think you're just starting to see him get comfortable in that linebacker position. And I really liked him at the end. But one thing that Coach Gundy said this Monday, I believe, was that he's too small to play D end in the NFL. So really what they're doing in my mind, is prepping him for that next level, which I think
kind of a hybrid type role,
which is phenomenal.
Type role. Yeah.
One guy that comes to mind, and I'm high on Collinoliver. I don't know. I hope he gets to this level, but he kind of reminds me of a Micah Parsons in terms of how he's able to play multiple positions, rush the quarterback, and also cover some of your best receivers. He's a
at least the H-back running back type.
Right,
cover,
right.
Yeah.
He's a big, strong, fast, physical guy that can play multiple positions. And I do think that at the next level, you're going to see him in a linebacker position. He's just not big enough and not bulky enough to play that D-end spot. But you will see him
package
coming
guy,
off the
maybe.
edge. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he had 7 tackles on the day, 2.5 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks. Big time player. He also had the last pass breakup, on that 4th down play that pretty much ended the game where he knocked it down. Him and Kendall Daniels both. I'll tell you another guy, super impressed with, big time transfer portal guy out of Tulsa, Anthony Goodlow. This guy's a good player, man, and what makes him good is he's so smart. The Cowboys defensively, he's kind of like the Brennanpressley of the defense in the sense that he's literally asked to do something different almost on every single play.
Yeah.
One play, he might be anchoring the run game in the middle of the field as a linebacker. The next play, he might be rushing the quarterback. The play after that, he might be dropping back into coverage. He might be flexed out on an H-back. Anthony Goodlow is kind of that Swiss Army knife for this defense. And he had the big tip, if you remember, that led to the interception that Oklahoma State really needed because they were losing the game at that point.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal player, man. And while we're pointing guys out, don't forget about Nick Martin, Trey Rucker, Cameron Epps. All of these young guys are having huge impacts against high-powered offenses. And I think that as you continue to see the weeks go by, this week West Virginia, next week Cincinnati, and then the week after that you've got OU. I don't think there's really an easy route these next 3-4 weeks. But what they were able to do against Kansas's offense, who I think they're a really good offense.
Bean's really good.
Is extremely impressive, right? And the quarterback with experience that not only can beat you with his arm, but he can beat you with his legs. They've done a phenomenal job, especially with their youth, of just playing good defense.
I would totally agree with that because, man, when the other team's quarterback, A, can improv, and then B, has that amount of experience like you hit on and can just beat you in a million of different ways, I can't explain to you how difficult that is to stop as a defensive coach.
Yeah.
It just drives you insane. It's very difficult. I know Coach Gundy compared stopping Bean to like stopping somebody like Caleb Williams, because I think Bean, when he came into Kansas, ran a 4.3. I don't know if he still does, but yeah, this dude is very, very, very fast. Okay. All good. Cowboys won again. They go to 4-2. Red zone offense. I know they were 6 for 6 in scoring, but still need to put the ball in the end zone more.
I agree with that. I agree. I do think that you saw a little bit more creativity this week in the red zone. You had the I don't remember which touchdown it was. Presley was on the
last one.
Yeah, it was the last one.
On the rocket play.
Yes, when they had him in motion and they used the jet sweep. It's stuff like that I really want to see. Sometimes, you can fake that jet sweep next time and go out to a boot waggle on the opposite side. Get the defense rolling one way. You roll Bowman out to the right if he's coming to the left, and then
Bowman's good at.
Right, and then you've got more than likely a tight end coming in a crossing route. You got another tight end in a flat, and you got a back in the flat. Which I think that's going to set them up really good for this week in the red zone if they use that. But I did like the more of the creativity that we saw in the red zone this week.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I'll tell you what else I liked. I love that 1-2 combo of Olliegordon. Olliegordon's that big dude, 218 pounds. He's got a little bit of shake to him. Matter of fact, he probably has too much shake in him because he likes to use it too much. It's like, hey, man, just get downhill and make that one cut and then just make people pay. And he's learned that cutback move, too. Mm-hmm. So, he got Olliegordon who gets downhill and really brings a blow to wear the defense down. Then you bring in the little scat back guy. It looks like a lightning bug on a summer evening, just kind of running around like that little running back that we're used to watching at Oklahoma State, right?
Yeah.
Making guys miss, with Jaden Nixon. Mm-hmm. That 1-2 combo is fantastic, I think.
Yeah, no, it's phenomenal. And what I would like to see also is we mentioned this a couple weeks ago. You use Nixon. You use Olliegordon. And then you put Brennanpressley back there in the backfield.
Yes.
Good luck stopping it. Good luck, because you got two speed guys, you got a power guy, and then you can't rule out you can't rule out play action.
Right.
So that would be a great thing to see in the red zone. With a little diamond formation in the backfield, maybe run a triple option. You run a play action pass. Maybe you send Presley and Nixon in almost like a blocking mode. You use them as fullbacks. You just open up a wide open gap. I think that there's a lot of things that you can do out of that. Right now, I wish I was the offensive coordinator, because that's one thing that I would definitely install. You got a lot of weapons.
Yeah, no doubt. And another guy that I'm very, very, very impressed with, Rashad Owens. This dude is an elite route runner. He's strong. Just the thing about him is just the way he posts up. He shows both of his numbers to Alan Bowman when he throws it. I don't want to jinx him. He doesn't drop passes, right? Okay, and he just runs great routes, and he just drives his defender off, turns around, post up, and he catches it. Mm-hmm. I really like Rashad Owens.
Yeah, I think he's a great player. And one thing that I actually learned this week is he actually was, if you go back to last season, he was prepping as a backup running back too. He's playing.
Well, he played quarterback in high school.
Yeah, and then last year when they had some injuries and going into the bowl game, he was going to be one of their running backs. Mm-hmm. Had something happen. He is a very versatile player. He's definitely.
They need to put a wildcat in with him at quarterback.
That would be awesome. That would be really cool. And with his quarterback experience, you can't roll out a pass. There's so many things that you can do with this offense. And I think we're starting to see more creativity every week. You go back to Kansas State, and I was in awe because I've never seen it before in the 5 or however many years he's been the offensive coordinator. And then you go into this week, and it's kind of carrying over. So he's kind of getting my hopes up. I hope he doesn't shut it down.
You're staying guarded.
I'm gonna keep my guard up just a little bit longer. Because a lot's going to be said going into West Virginia this week. You're going into a hostile environment. You're going into West Virginia weather, meaning it's going to be rainy. It's going to be a little chilly. There's a lot of things that are working in West Virginia's favor right now. So if you can go in there and get a win, that's going to be huge.
Just get a couch and burn it, and you can stay warm. That was bad, wasn't it? Rashad Owens, 9 catches, 112 yards. I kid. Nobody's more country than Oklahoma people. So hey, I can say that because we're country bumpkins here too as well. So, okay, Rashad Owens, very good. You mentioned West Virginia. It's a team that has played a lot better this year under Neil Brown. I know he's caught a lot of fire there up in West Virginia as far as probably being on the hot seat. People aren't real happy. Probably one of the worst games Oklahoma State's ever played at home under Mike Gundy since they've become good. Take out 2005. Last year, the last home game of the season, pathetic game at home against West Virginia. I think that's probably putting it kindly. We've moved past that. So big game on the road, very winnable, very losable. I have no idea what's going to happen.
I don't either. I have no idea. I have a hope that they come out and do what they've done the past couple weeks with two good teams out of Kansas. You're going up to West Virginia, who I personally don't think is as talented as KU or Kansas State. But then again, you're going into West Virginia. Morgantown is a hard place to play. The weather's going to be changing. There's a lot of things, like I said, that are working in West Virginia's favor, and they're coming off of a loss, so they're going to be playing a little bit more pissed off. And the way they lost the game was terrible, and I'm not holding it over. Yeah, I mean, it's a sucky way to lose a game. So that's been in the back of their mind, and now they have a bad taste in their mouth, and they have something to prove, and they're at home. So there's not going to be a lack of
they have
fire.
A good quarterback with a lot of swag. Green's good.
It's going to be a tough game. Like I said, I don't know if Oklahoma State has another game out. I don't want to jinx it. Cincinnati and BYU are not super impressive, but
is BYU at home?
Yes.
That helps, yeah.
Last game at home. I think it's like the 27th or something like that of November. UCF is not fantastic, but they're a team that can beat you. They don't have a whole lot of gimme games, so that
this league doesn't have any,
No, and each week you have to go in with the same mentality. They've got to go in to Morgantown and shut the fans up immediately. They have to. They've got to do what they've done the past 2 weeks at home and getting the crowd into it at home. Driving the ball down their throat, playing good defense. If they do that, I don't think that there's any doubt that they can come out with the win. But it's going to be a hard thing to do.
Yeah, one of the ways that you could do it is you could have back-to-back weeks where Olliegordon was the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week. Olliegordon was the first Oklahoma State running back against Kansas to run for 100 yards and receive for 100 yards in the same game. Ironically, it was Gerald Hudson, 1989. I remember that game very well. I remember that whole season because I remember how good Gerald Hudson was, and nobody really gave him credit. Matter of fact, most OSU fans probably don't even remember that name. If you remember in 1989, that year, that was Mike Gundy's senior year. Ironically, it was the head coach for Oklahoma State. He was the one who threw the ball to Gerald Hudson to get him over those 100 yards receiving, and both of them went over 100 yards, and both had huge plays on the exact same screenplay. So and none of it was planned. I mean, Mike Gundy didn't have any of that. He just kind of got to thinking, 1989. I remember that. And it got to thinking about it, and sure as heck, that was the last time an Oklahoma State back had gone over 100 yards in both receiving and running. And then also Olliegordon not only was the Big 12 Conference Offensive Player of the Week, he also was the Doak Walker National Running Back of the Week.
Yeah, I mean, what a heck of a game. Just phenomenal, both running the ball, he's rushing for, over 5.5 yards a carry. And then he had six receptions for 116 yards, meaning that he was almost averaging 20 yards a pass or per reception.
29 carries too, man. Workhorse.
An absolute load, but that's one guy that can handle it, and I don't think he would want it any other way. I'm going to be honest with you. You watch him play. You watch his mentality, you watch his fire and his excitement. I think if you tell him he's going to carry the ball 29 times a game, he's probably like, shoot, give me 35. I don't care. He wants the ball. He knows what he's capable of, and he knows what he brings to the offense. Now, I'm not suggesting that they do run the ball with him 35 times because that's going to lead to wear and tear and injury. But then again, you had your bye week a couple of weeks ago, so he's probably a little bit more fresh. You might see a little bit of fatigue as they get further on into the season. Maybe you see a little bit more rotation with Nixon these next couple of weeks to kind of prep Ollie for that game against OU. You don't want to look ahead, but at the same time, OU within these next 3 weeks, OU is by far your toughest opponent.
I think that's Elijah Collins' path to playing time, too, as you're trying to keep everybody fresh. I think Collins fumbled this last week. I think Oklahoma State got it back. He did. But that's why he didn't see a whole lot of carries. Plus, it's like Coach Gundy said, when you have a hot back, he's going to stay in. And then Jaden Nixon does a great job. I just think Nixon's style works perfectly off of Olliegordon, whereas Elijah Collins is kind of similar to Olliegordon, similar type size, similar type running style. I think the contrast works better with Gordon and Nixon. So Olliegordon, a great day. He had 29 carries, 174 on the ground, 6 catches, 166. He had a touchdown, both running and catching. So, hey, this has been a super fun show. It's been a fun, fantastic 2 weeks of Oklahoma State football at Boone Pickens Stadium. The crowds have been electric. So, final thoughts, Chase?
Man, these next few weeks are huge. You know, you've got this week at a tough opponent in a tough environment at West Virginia, and then you get to come home and you got homecoming. There's a lot of buzz around that. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting chills starting to think about it, you know, because you got the homecoming game and then you got OU right after that. I mean, you don't get to see much better football back-to-back weeks in Boone Pickens Stadium than you will these next few weeks. On top of you're building, you know, with the Kansas State week and the Kansas week that are just we were both there. You know, the environment was different, and it had a nice feel to it. It had an electric feel, if you will. And, you know, speaking as a former player, it's a lot more fun to play. You know, and you feed off that energy from the fans and the coaches and things like the coaches feed off the energy. So continue to show up, be supportive, and be loud, because it's, like I said, we've been spoiled with the home schedule this year.
What's been the difference? I mean, how did this team look so bad now it looks so good?
I just think it's consistency.
What flip switched?
I mean, for me, in my opinion, it's consistency. You know, they come off of a bad loss against South Alabama, and then you travel to Iowa State with Alan-Bowman finally getting his first start. You know, there was some inconsistency there. You go into these next few weeks, and your back's also against the wall. You know, and like you mentioned a couple of weeks ago, Mike Gundy's not going to sit there and just let you blow shots at him. You know, he's going to come out swinging. I said a couple of weeks ago when they had the bye week couldn't have come at a better time. You know, because it's nothing like kicking a man while he's down. That's why I was surprised
it didn't come out swinging from the start of the season. I get the criticism he took the way last season ended. I really thought he'd come out like we are now at the beginning of this year.
I think he was just confused, you know, and he'll be the first to tell you that. They didn't know what their identity was. They didn't know what to do at quarterback. I don't know. I really don't know what they were doing at running back because Olliegordon is by far your best back.
You've said that the whole time.
Yeah, and I'm not putting the other running backs down because they are good backs. But Olliegordon is an all Big 12 first team running back. He's so good. So I'm not sure what that was all about. I do get the quarterback situation. On top of, you know, you have to take into consideration you've got the transfer portal, you've got all this bull crap that you have to deal with now. So it's I'm not sure who said it. I was listening to the Sports Animal earlier. Pat Jones, you have to continue to recruit your players throughout the entire season. So I think that's what – I mean, that had a lot to do with it, trying to confirm that Rangel's not going to leave, which I think he's going to. And then, you know, you've got Gunnar Gundy, who's your son, which do I think he's going to go anywhere? No. But at the same time, he played really well the first 3 weeks. So, heck, I have no idea. But I do think that if, you know, looking long term, it was definitely the consistency that was the flip switch, if you will.
I would agree with all that. No doubt about it. I think they found an identity from a blocking scheme perspective. The gap scheme mixed in with a little bit of wide zone, and then, you know, I think from a blocking scheme perspective, they found an identity there. It suited the running back. They started to run the ball. And I think when Mike Gundy type offenses, Casey Dunn being an offensive coordinator, when Mike Gundy's offenses can run the ball, they're always pretty good. So, hey, it's been a super fun last 2 games. Big game this week, and it's been a really fun show. So, Chase, thanks for joining.
Absolutely. It was a blast.
Okay, fans, as always, I'd like to thank you for tuning in. Hey, don't forget to go become a follower on Dodgers Daily Twitter. We have Dodgers Daily, Dodgers Daily. I knew I was going to do that. OState Daily Twitter, OState Daily Facebook, OState Daily Instagram, and then we also have a TikTok. So go become a follower. This weekend on the road games, we will have live updates. We'll have all the video of each of the big plays. We'll have analysis and breakdowns of those. If you go to my social medias right now at OState Daily, you can see an example of how each play is broken down. Each player is given credit for what they do. It's explained what happened. I think you'll enjoy that if you give it a chance. Again, that's OState Daily Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and then TikTok. So whichever social media platform you prefer, we have them all out there for you. So as always, I'd like to thank you for tuning in and say, go Pokes!